All right, good morning. Yeah! Yeah! All right. Let's get going. YouTube, welcome to Forex.Today. The YouTube community of more than 21,000 foreign exchange traders. We gather here today to conduct technical and fundamental analysis with the overriding goal of planning our trades in advance, because trading is risky, not appropriate for everyone. Your past performance, good or bad, is not necessarily indicative of future results. Please stay small, stay humble, focus on the long term, never risk money you cannot afford to lose. Wasabi! Ni hao ma? What's going on? Nothing's right, I'm torn. So it is a Monday. It's another great day to be alive, and if you're breathing, you might as well trade. Not a lot on the calendar today. In fact, basically nothing on the calendar today. So that's cool. We got PMIs by the end of the week. Okay, cool. So let's get to our charts. Take a look at what we got. You can see that we started the day up, then we tickled the daily the daily 5, and then it came down, and then the last couple of hours it's kind of back up again. Well, hills bills. Just kind of stuck. Now notice we've hit our target. This goes back several weeks of analysis already. Is my drawing tool not working? It's not working. Interesting. Let me try that again. Oh yeah, okay. This top predicts this bottom, and we went through it and we've come back to it. So it is a completed pattern. Okay, CPP 2, S2. Okay, that's pretty logical. Now you could say that the move is an extreme move. It doesn't happen often, but when it does, you can play the S3, and then you could argue, well, the Trump election results could be one of those things. And yeah, I agree with you. So it could go further. An example of this is here to here. It doesn't happen often, like it didn't happen here, and it didn't happen here. Oh, look, it happened here, actually. And then maybe one more. Yeah. So that's it. This is S3. This is S3. This is R3. Okay. So so it could be where we're going, in which you would then want to sell off the daily 5 and then take it down 103.5. What do you stink? Smell like a plan? So I have a poll running. Could you please take a moment of your time and answer the poll? Okay.
Crude oil edges higher on raised Ukraine-Russia tensions.
Oil prices tick higher as Russia-Ukraine war escalates. So nothing really going on Aussie dollar here. Kiwi's weak, as you probably already know. So the way you want to play it is, you want to sell it off the moving average. And we're just slowly, ever so slowly, riding the 21.55. Now the 55 is in control, so it shows that we are vulnerable. But nonetheless, if you're going to be a bear, we're kind of getting into that zone where you could have an up and then the rest of the day down. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Oops. You want to kind of take this into account. Okay. It's not much of a lower low, but it is a lower low, so you can do one of these things. Okay. Or you treat it like a range and you just take a walk. Okay. But it does seem like Kiwi is relatively weak. We are at the bottom of the range, right? Again, we've been looking at this for weeks. You might just say, nah, it's not likely to fall further. Okay, then don't do it. Okay, and some might even be looking the other way, where you go to the top of the range. Yeah, okay. But things like seasonality play a role. And usually, between now and the end of the year is pretty decent trading volumes. So, you know, if that's going to be the trend, okay, it's plausible we can get down to the next lower bound of a range. Right now, dollar's popular, probably based on the Fed cutting less or maybe Trump raising tariffs. Kiwi happens to be weak in the moment. So, you know, it's plausible. It's dangerous, but it's plausible. Pig's kind of in the same. Now, okay. Now, British pound hit the monthly.
US dollar Swiss franc is backing off highs, going back to July and back below 61.8% retracement.
Monthly M1. But because the top here is the central pivot point, it can go further, or is predicted to go down further to this level here. Okay. Monthly S2. This, okay, predicts this. Okay. Now it's just a pattern. I mean, it doesn't predict it like it's analyzing, you know, neural networks or something. It's just a pattern. But that is what the pattern is. So it's plausible that the US dollar remains strong. It's plausible. How about this one? Okay, on the daily, all it did was come up, pull back to the moving average, and then has moved up. And we've talked about that multiple times. Looking at it on a smaller time frame, you see just lots of day trades. Up, 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 down, down. Well, let me get my drawing tool. Okay, up, 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 down, down, buy in the trade zone. Up, 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 down, down, buy in the trade zone. Up, 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 down, down, buy in the trade zone. Up, 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 down, down, buy in the trade zone.
Kiwi dollar, US dollar remains vulnerable around 0.850 as US dollar stays firm.
And so it failed to make a higher high today, but it hasn't made a lower low either. So, but you can see how well it's been day trading, right? Buy. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. Definitely buy. And now it hasn't quite made a higher high yet. Well, the markets weren't open yet. Well, not all the markets, some of the markets. So now maybe there's an up followed by another up. You see? Lots of little day trades. Now that yen, oh my gosh, huh? Golly, gee whiz, Batman, that is amazing. So this is the big challenge for us this week. Okay, if you are going to be a bear, you need to mark this as your sell zone. Okay? Yeah. And if you're going to be a bull, that's probably your buy zone. And it's really unclear which one is correct. So this is why you want to look at all those other dollar pairs, right? But that yen, I don't know, are we done? Are all the other yens, like, I don't know, like US dollar seems like it wants to be strong, but what about the other ones? Like Kiwi yen, is it going to do one of these things and a total collapse? I don't know. That's a giant drop. That's a lot of Japanese yen strength, huh? So now we go and see, well, how disastrous does it actually look? And we go to that Kiwi, and let's get rid of this pattern here. Out of this chart. Let's just kind of go, let's clean this up a little bit. Now we are on that annual pivot. Okay, but is this bearish now? Very, 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 very well could be. And if so, up, 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 take it down. And if we get through this annual pivot, then you would expect the next stop to be the next lower annual pivot, which is way down at 87. Shut the back door. 87? We're at 91. Uh-huh. So it shows you how important this is. We either giddy up back to the upside or it's a long ways down. Kind of hard to trade at the moment because, well, bulls could buy here because it's support. It's not resistance. So anyways, if it made a lower low, then that gets easy. So we want to watch that for vulnerability. CAD is not strong. CAD's a dog with fleas. So it'd be very interesting if even CAD can stay above these daily moving averages, then there's hope that this just regroups and goes back to the upside.
Changelly introduces Black Friday campaign with crypto deals and prize pool.
Looking at the Aussie, however, we are through the moving averages. So Aussie's even weaker, huh? Look at that. That's terrible. I really wanted this to rise up, and it did, and then it collapsed. Okay. Anything else? Yeah, I'd prefer these go up, but there's some real vulnerability going on. Euro's strong today, but I'm not much of a bull on Euro. So the way I would do this, if you agree with me, like, I don't know if you agree with me, and I don't know if I'm right, so I don't know if you should agree with me. The thing is, if you did agree with me, you would set this up and see that we're now at a selling price. So if I were me, I would drop into a smaller time frame and wait for my opportunity, huh? Wait for my opportunity to engage. What do you think?
Pound sterling struggles against US dollar as traders pare back Fed dovish bets.
Dovish. Okay, clearly not bearish yet. But maybe that's where you sit and you wait. I would rather take the dollar down. So I would then go back to euro dollar. And, okay, I want to eyeball that 5 EMA. It's right next to the central pivot. So to me, it's the same thing. So let's drop to a smaller time frame. Maybe even a 5-er. And I wait for some bearishness. It could go a little higher, and then I look for bearishness. It can happen now, or it could happen a little higher. Is it bearish now? No. So I wait. All right, let's look at some of the stock indices. There's a hopeful possibility on S&P 500 today. I don't think the other indices have quite the setup. So it's plausible. It's plausible that this is good. But remember, the market is pricing out Fed cuts. The market is raising future interest rates, not cutting them. But maybe at some point enough is enough. Okay, and this price right in here, let me highlight that. I know I got a lot going on, but hang on. Yeah, you can see the dotted line. That is a buying price on a weekly basis. But on this hourly chart, this is definitely not bullish. Definitely not bullish. It's definitely bearish on this time frame. So if I wanted to be a bull and I really thought this price could really be helpful, I better sit on my hands a little bit and let someone else carry the weight. Now, how about our NASI? Okay, NASI's through the daily 21.
Wetlands is surging, threatening climate plans. Biden aims to finalize clean fuel rule before leaving White House.
So we got our 66, like, not as clean, not as clean. How about our no diggity, no Dow? Well, our no diggity, no Dow, as I showed on other assets earlier, went to R3. Look at that. So this pattern is complete. Okay. Yeah. And so this is a buy zone. This is a buy zone. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So right now we're sort of in plan A. This is where the 21 will be in the future if this rises, and it's a role reversal, you see? Trucking Mogul, how do I trade indices in the U.S.? Just open a regular old stock trading account, and you would trade an ETF that tracks the S&P 500. SPX, SPY are examples. There's another one too that I actually own, and I don't know. So there's variations of it, but an ETF is probably the easiest way of doing it. So I have an account at a major Wall Street firm. Okay. So anyways, this is still hopeful. You see, we're just kind of at a cluster, but this shows that the trade is kind of down. So if this is setting up a Gartley, a Gartley would look, a harmonic pattern like a Gartley would say the higher high, how would you do it? I guess it would be like this. Not really a harmonics guy, but, I could see it. And of course, that kind of maybe even sets up like a Head and Shoulders in the future, maybe like December or something like that. Okay. I mean, look, I want this to go up, but this is that's serious. That's a monthly R3 is a serious touch. When it happens early in the month, it's pretty serious. If it happens at the end of the month, at least there's going to be at least a small amount of profit taking and then rebuying. But it happened fairly early in the month. It could be important, but right now we're more in the crossroads of bullishness.
Euro US dollar finds temporary support. Downside bias stays afloat.
U.S. stocks open mixed. Dow Industrial Average is a modestly lower. NASDAQ index is higher.
I hope you don't mind that squawk running in the background, but that's how you should be using the squawk. When I launch it, you should just have it running in the background. You don't need to eyeball it. It reads it to you as you're trading. Let's take a look at commodities. XAU catching a bid today. Still technically bearish. Okay, if you're going to use technical analysis, this is the likely outcome in the future. Goldman Sachs gave a positive review for gold in 2025 to their clients. Okay. And maybe you'd rather use this daily and say, well, what I showed you is like you come down one more time, but then when you get to this price around 25, it could be the point in which we start looking to buy it back. Okay. Mm-hmm. But Trucking Mogul wants to know, like, again, how to trade indices and stuff. Yeah, I think there's a reasonable chance I launch a fund or an ETF in the next year, in 2025. I have I have a pretty reasonable amount of verbal commitments. I met with a very, very large fund that is very interested in what I'm doing and familiar with what I'm doing, and have sort of like a soft verbal there. But if anyone has $1 million of money that you want to allocate to a very conservative, very risk-averse fund that produces high income, I'm your guy. That would be the fund. Now, I might do it as an ETF, and if I do it as an ETF, you don't need $1 million. If I do it as more like a traditional fund or hedge fund, you'd need $1 million. But I think I could do it as an ETF, and therefore anybody could just buy in whenever they want. Therefore, right? Therefore, trucking mogul, I'll buy them for you. So yeah, today I think is a slow day, and it's an important day. I don't know if we're going to get the move today. But it's something. Now, for those that are small business owners,
Clutis announces platform enhancements to bolster transparency and sustainability.
If you're a small business and you make, let's say, $300,000 a year, I can also set up a pension fund for you. And if you have 2 or 3 employees, we can set up a fund for them. But if you're interested in that, what we would do is we'd set up your corporate pension fund, and then out of your income, put $60,000 into my income fund, which will compound over decades, or depending on how much time you have. But meanwhile, you've lowered your taxes, your taxable income by $60,000. So instead of paying the government, you're investing it in the long run. You'll pay taxes in the future, but we'll compound it at 10% a year, which is going to double it in every, 6 or 7 years. Your money doubles, and then it doubles again. So if you have 20 years until retirement, it's going to double, then double again, and then double again. And you have to understand the compounding. 1 million to 2 million, 2 million to 4 million, 4 million to 8 million kind of thing. That's a lot of doubling. Yeah. And then we switch it over to income. So now if you had 8 million when you retired, you could spend 800,000 a year and never touch your money. Now 8 million is probably a lot for most, right? So if you can get that to 2 million, which is more achievable for most people, then you'd have to find a way to live on 200,000 or less. And therefore, when you die, you still have all your life savings. And you give that to your children, or you give that to charity. Now, there's lots of institutions that just love the idea of low volatility and high income. So, yeah. Imagine you're a real estate developer and you sold a project, but you don't have a new project yet. So you might have $100 million in cash, but you need that liquid in case you find a deal. You need the cash quickly. But meanwhile, if you park it in a bank, you're not earning very much. And if you invest it somewhere else that's high yield, but then you have high risk, So it's kind of attractive to say, well, I'll park it with Wayne for a year and a half until I need the money, and then I can get the money back quickly. Meanwhile, you earn 10%. And you're like, 10%? Yeah, that's $1 million a month in income. Yeah. So anyways, Rand definitely has changed directions from a risk-on play where you're earning high income to suddenly no risk, nobody wants the risk anymore. We're at the high end of the range, which is kind of interesting, and it did kick off of that. I'm just not sure if that'll happen, if this will continue. This would have to be very risk-on. Everything is
Tesla
good.
leads auto gains while semiconductors face pressure.
Brazil Development Bank signs deal with AIIB for nearly $3 billion in investments.
Okay, like for something like that to happen, we need quite a change in fundamental events. The Fed will cut more. There's not likely to be tariffs. Now, President Xi reached out to Trump already and said, hey, let's play nice. Let's avoid these tariffs. Okay. This chart does say, though, that we were supposed to drop all the way down to 16. And we're at 18 now. Next stop 17 or 16 and a half. I don't know, man. I don't know. I think things changed around the election. Okay. Things changed around the election. It looks like an inside year. Top is M3, bottom is M2. That's a tight year, man. And I don't know. It doesn't, I don't think it'll come down. But if, so anyways, we'll see. Right now, yields in the United States are rising, which makes Rand less attractive. And peso now has gone all the way up, hit the annual R2. Let me draw this because it's important. Okay, hit the annual R2. Oops. Kind of do it black. Okay, hit the annual R2, instantly dropped, went back to R2, stopped, went back to R2, stopped, went back to R2, stopped, and has now made a lower low, and probably will go up and test it again. But clearly, it seems to me, in my humble opinion, institutional investors know this number just like you and I know the number. For many others, it's arbitrary. It's not arbitrary at all. Okay? Now, the next move, if you're going to be a bull on this one, is take that up to R3. And we've seen multiple examples of that on other assets. So you would want to buy low. Right now, we've identified buy low as this zone just above 20. Okay. Again, I just want to point out oil. Okay, we are on a key level. If it breaks lower, okay, lower high, that kind of stuff. Right now, we're caught on yesterday's high. And so there's almost like a mini trap and break going on here. So let me get rid of some of this stuff. And you have a mini trap and break. Okay, if it's going to make a low, it shouldn't make a higher high. You get that? If it's going to make a lower low, it's not supposed to make a higher high. And this is what we're trying to figure out for today. And so on a smaller time frame, you would expect this to roll over and head down. Okay. If it makes a higher high, then yeah, okay. We might have a little bit of bid. People fighting to push it up. Okay. Galactic tax cuts take a very, very, very long time to impact the market. And it's not like a transfer payment like, during COVID to just receive a check. Well, then you go out and you spend it. Well, do you actually get money if you paid less taxes? No. It takes a longer time. Yeah. Now, I don't mind income taxes. I wish property taxes were significantly lower. I hate the idea of, let's say, someone who has spent 30 years paying off their mortgage. Now they live in their house. They spent 30 years paying down their debt. They have no mortgage. Presumably at this point they're retired. And their house is tripled or quadrupled in value. And now they have to pay taxes on this new value. But they don't get to eat the new value. They don't get to eat the equity in their home. But they have to pay taxes on it. And it's a lot in some cases. You're like, oh my God. You're fully retired. You spent decades paying down your house. You have no mortgage. And you got to spend $2,000 a month in taxes for the house you already own. You're like, that bugs me. I also don't like the death tax. You get taxed your whole frickin' life. Every time you buy a bottle of booze, every time you buy a cigar, every time you fill up the Porsche with fuel, every time you decide to buy food, you have to pay taxes. Plus you pay taxes on your income and you pay taxes on your investments and all that kind of stuff. You're just, dude, you're just crippling me with taxes. And then when you die, the government takes half of it? That's bullshit. Pardon my French. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it is, and it shows the need, like, for what, of course I'm singing my own song, but I really believe, like, the fund that I'm building for retired people and for charity and endowments, I think it makes, I think it's like a moral imperative that I do it because I can do it. The idea that I can pay 10 to 12% income per year is enough for many Americans to be able to live on if they have a life savings. If they don't have a life savings, it's too late. There's nothing I can do about that. Yeah, the other thing too, right, is housing prices are too high. So young people are never going to be able to afford a home, or everyone starts living in apartments. It's outrageous that I have to spend $400,000 sending 2 children to university. I mean, that's just outrageous. If it was $200,000, that would still be outrageous. I mean, my gosh. And then the other thing that's a real mess in the United States. Now, there's lots of things I love about America, so Americans don't get all upset with me. But the healthcare system is a disaster. When your doctor or your dentist says, "Hey, man, we need," like, I actually had this conversation. My dentist wants to pull my wisdom teeth. I'm like, I get it, right? That's not abnormal. Especially at my age, they're like, wow, you still have your wisdom teeth? Uh-huh. All right, well, we should take them out. Okay, how much is this going to cost? They actually have no idea. We don't know. That is a problem. Stuff like that just bugs me. Bugs me. Bugs me. Bugs me. So, yeah, there's a few things to be fixed. Yeah. Yeah, right, Jordan? Yeah, well, but, I mean, just imagine you were going to buy a $100,000 car, or a luxury car, we'll say. You're going to buy a luxury car, and you go there and you're like, wow, this is beautiful. I really love this car. How much does it cost? Oh, we don't know. Oh, and by the way, Jordan, for you, it's going to cost less money than for Wayne. If Wayne buys it, it'll cost him more. Why? Wayne owns a small business. But Jordan, you work at a big Fortune 500 company, so it's going to be cheaper for you for some reason. I'm like, what the fudge? What the fudge? Like, what does that matter? Right? But in America, that's how it goes. Oh, you own a small business? Oh, well, you're screwed. Right? You're like, wow. So anyways. Anywho, right? Yeah. So there's some things, right? Exactly, Lucas, right? And I imagine, Lucas, since you're in the agriculture business, I imagine there's a lot of similar kind of challenges. Like I've been a small business owner almost my entire career. Only a few times did I actually work for somebody else. And it's not a fair system for small businesses, even though small businesses are probably 70% of the entire economy. It's not the same. And I imagine, I don't know, but I would imagine there's a lot of things being a farmer that is also similarly unfair. Like, I don't know what you do for healthcare.
United States NAHB housing market index came in at 46.
It's not like you work at
above
Google and Google
expectations,
just gives you
44
some
in November.
killer insurance. I don't know if you have killer insurance or horrible insurance, but I've been through it many times, and you get to the situation where not only are you paying 4 or 5 times more money than like a Google employee, but your benefits are way less. You pay significantly more and you get way less. Yeah, and you know what, Lucas, and I know you're not even joking. That's exactly what people do.
November 46 versus 43 estimate.
That's exactly what you have to do in America as a small business. So it sounds like the ag business is a small business for most then, if that's, because that's exactly what you do. Now, I have a friend who is actually talking to a lot of agricultural businesses for his hedge fund. because they have a lot of cash flow and high credit because of it. And so they probably have really good benefits when you're doing, I don't know, $1 billion a year in cash flow, money in, money out. You probably can get health insurance for a business that big. But it's really interesting when you analyze the business, you're like, wait, you do $1 billion a year in cash flow, but you only make a $3 million profit. You're like, it's a big business, but it's not a hugely profitable business, huh? Yeah, Lucas, but what I'm saying is that's exactly what people in our position have to do in America. I mean, think of it. It's just part of the way it's built. If you don't work for a big company, you're a small business owner, you take care of yourself, you create your own fortune, you don't rely on anybody except your work ethic. And the way that the system is designed is you get screwed for that, and you have to get a spouse to go get a job, not because you need the money, but because you need the benefits. And it's normal. It would be abnormal not to do it. And it's like, well, why is that, right? Why is that? So anyways, going back to the question, tax cuts, yeah, in the long run, save you money, and you would, in theory, have more disposable income. Right? And so if my tax bill drops by $30,000 a year, in theory, I could either invest the $30,000 a year, or I can spend the $30,000 a year. I could build a back deck. I could go on a Disney cruise around the world, right? Or I can just put it in my retirement account and compound that biatch. Dude, the cool thing about investing, guys, like when you start to think about it, and you start to learn about wealth versus money, like being rich versus being wealthy, you look at the $30,000 that you saved in taxes, and some people are like, "Ooh, I can get a nicer car." Yeah, that's true. But when one of your major goals is to stuff money away in your retirement account, the thing is, once you understand compounding, you're like, $30,000 is saved this year is equivalent to $250,000 when I am retired. So all of a sudden you're excited. You're like, holy crap, stuff that into my account. Because you're like, it's not 30,000, it's 250,000. Okay? Now the cool thing is, let's say that's when you're 65. When you're 75, if you didn't spend it, that $250,000 is now $500,000 because it's been growing at $25,000 a year at 10%. So now, honestly, your $30,000, which you could have bought a used Toyota Corolla with, is now worth $500,000, which you can buy a Lambo with. And what did you do? You saved it. Well, of course, you need to know how to invest it, but, you sat on it like Mother Goose, and you start looking at everything that way. It's not 30,000, it's 500,000. 500,000 in cash when you're 75. When you're 75. The one $30,000 tax savings. Yeah. All of a sudden, money is easy if you know the difference between rich and wealthy. Wealthy people make money from their money so that they don't have to work. And usually you get to a point pretty quickly where your money makes more than enough money for you to live, and your income outpaces your spending. Well, most people spend their whole life outspending their savings. You can totally reverse that. And you could be 70 years old and you're making money faster than you spend it, and you're happy as a pig in shit. Okay, it might not be models and bottles and Lambos and you're on your yacht, you're pouring champagne into your hot tub. You know, it's not that kind of stuff. But if you still own your home and you have that steady income, and once or twice a year you go on a vacation and you can be generous to your children and your grandchildren, and you're stuffing money into their college savings account, okay? Or you could put the down payment on a home for your children when they graduate from university. You know, these things matter, and that's what money is for. So for those that are small business owners, the one strategic advantage that you have over someone with a job is that you can save $60,000 a year tax deferred. And so that's one of the things I was thinking of doing over the next 10 years is helping small business owners set that up. And then you stuff money into that account, and I'll manage it for you. Could be probably a pretty good idea for farmers, though, too. Hey, Lucas?
Pound US dollar price forecast steadies at around 1.2600.
I mean, the ultimate small business, right? Lucas, are farmers incorporated? I know it's a naive question. Are they incorporated? Are they S Corps? Are they LLCs? Are they C Corps? I mean, they must be businesses if you're writing things off. Or maybe there's a special farm corporation. I don't think so. So the LLCs, I would imagine. Could be an S Corp, though. It really could. I mean, farmers don't tend to have shareholders. Yeah, that makes sense. I gotcha. And then they just transfer that. That's good. So you could have a pension fund, Lucas. So you could defer. You can put up to 60,000 aside in various vehicles, like the big one is like my pension fund that I have for myself. You could do that for your S Corp, and that defers your taxes by $60,000 this year, but you grow it and compound it for decades so that when you do retire and you hand your S Corp to your children, it's been compounding and compounding and compounding and compounding. So it's a beautiful nest egg at the end. And $60,000 a year, you know, and you're not an old man. $60,000 a year, every year, year after year after year, plus the compounding. It's real money. I mean, it's no joke, real money. Many, many millions of dollars. Be interesting. I never even thought about that. I wonder if I could do that just for farmers. Be interesting. Just meet farmers. Like, let me set this up for you, and let me do it for you. Yeah. Yeah, interesting. All right. So anyways, oil really trying to get above that support line. It's really, right? Yes, you can, Jordan. So, okay. The thing is, you got to have, it maxes out around 300,000. But it doesn't matter because after that, there's other ways to play the tax game. But for most small businesses, that's pretty good. So with 300,000, you're stuffing 60,000 aside. It has to be set up properly and all that kind of stuff. And then, of course, it has to be managed. Once you got the money aside to be invested, then it has to be invested appropriately. And of course, when I meet with people, their money is not really invested properly. Even with this endowment, my hands are almost shaking at how poorly the money's been invested by Wall Street experts. And I'm at the point where I have total disbelief in the system now at this point. I've gone from being in awe of experts to the whole thing is a sham kind of feeling now, where you meet the senior person of a major Wall Street firm who also is providing supervision to an endowment division of their bank, and it's a total shit show. I'm like, then, oh my God. So it still has to be invested properly, and I think I can do that better than anybody else. I know that sounds arrogant, but I'm in total disbelief in anything else at this point. I know myself. I know me. And I don't know how the others work, but it doesn't seem to be right. But the answer to that is yes, Jordan. The downside to working with entrepreneurs is most of them are full of crap, right? So they're like, yeah, I want to retire with millions. Yeah, I'll stuff 60,000 aside in my retirement account. And by year 3, they're only putting in $5,000. You're like, and they're spending it, right? And you're like, dude, you're full of crap. Well, I need a new truck. No, yeah, well, you don't get it.
To start, remove the battery tab. Most people choose to install their panic button by their bedside.
Okay, I got to go. I have a major delivery. But, farmers, I believe, are inherently risk averse. They understand the boom and bust cycles of, hey, this year you did pretty good, but next year can suck. So saving and being conservative is, at least the farmers I grew up with were quiet, hardworking, conservative. You could have $5 million in the bank and drive an old pickup truck, and you don't wear fancy clothes in GQ magazine, and you live in your grandfather's house. You don't need a McMansion, that kind of stuff. They laugh at a Ferrari. They probably couldn't get into a Ferrari anyways. But I got to go. I have a big delivery. I have a FDA approved kiln dried wood being delivered, competition firewood. Got to go. Peace on earth. May the pips be with you. May our profits be above average. And I'll see you soon. Thanks for being on my team.